All right, and then let me make sure let me actually turn on the speakers on this computer.
Yeah. And it's growing.
Yeah.
It grows.
We are
Okay.
recording now.
All right, welcome everyone. We're going to begin our September meeting, Public Health and Safety. And I think we'll wait to approve the minutes from August. We will do that at our next meeting. And we can begin with the public comment. I don't believe there is any.
Let's see here. No, we have Dennis, we have the mayor, and we have our EAC chair. So I don't think anyone's here for public comment.
Okay, so let's go to traffic concerns. This is the first item we have, Conway and Sabine.
Sure.
And Manager Brett.
Thank you. So Councilmember Fortner actually brought to my attention 2 months ago. She had saw on a previous agenda that we had been talking about the sight lines at Sabine and Country Lane. And shame on me, it just didn't make its way onto the agenda here. So I told her, we would treat this the same way. When the mayor had made a request before, we'll treat it the same way we would anyone else. And the old process, since she made the request 2 months ago, only requires one property owner to meet the threshold of filing a concern. So, to that end, her original thought was that while the engineer was out there anyway looking at the Country Lane and Sabine sight line, he would look at Conway as well. Unfortunately, we missed that opportunity, but I'm certainly willing, if the committee's fine with it, to have Mike Schneider, next time he's in the borough, pop over and look at Sabine and Conway and see what he thinks about it. So I'm not the chair.
Oh, yeah.
Can I add to that list? Because we've been talking about Conway and Price for years. Residents have asked for stop time. When you're traveling down Price, there is no sight line because there's a house with bushes, and you have to creep out to the point where you can be hit anyway. I actually think you and I had this discussion standing on that corner years ago. Residents have asked for years for a four-way stop. If they're examining Conway anyway, could we add Price, given the fact that retrospectively we've had neighbors, and I think the officers have identified that's because
It's the hedge line you're talking about?
Yep.
Yeah, there's no stop sign when you come that Conway.
Yeah.
right, or Price.
Price, there's a stop sign. When you
Oh,
come-
you're right. I'm sorry, on Conway. Yeah.
Conway, they just go right.
Correct, right, yeah, yep.
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know if I told the committee or not. What we ended up doing on Country Lane was we moved the no parking sign a few feet back to give a little bit more sight room for people. Also, there was excessive vegetation at the property at the corner of Country Line and Sabine that was trimmed back. So yeah, I can definitely ask Mike if the committee's fine with it. I'm fine with that. Send Mike Schneider, the traffic engineer, to look at both of those locations.
Okay, great. So we could come back to that in October.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well then, how about we just go to the item 4 here, the fire company. I know Bill emailed that he couldn't make it, but we do want to be sure somebody can attend the meeting. I don't know. Is it?
I think it's something done.
Okay, that's going to
Yeah,
be
it's
September
on.
12th.
Yep.
Okay. All right, thank you, Cindy.
And you should know, Bill is gonna come to the fall meet and greet and do a safety thing on fire pits.
Oh, really? Great.
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's October 7th?
Friday, yeah.
Friday,
So,
6 to 7. And that's so he's available to say, if you're gonna have fire pits, so you should be doing.
Okay. And where is that going to be?
TBD, borough property. I have to actually work with Smith and Long where we put the fire pit, but.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, what do we want to do next? I think is talk about item 5, the community choice aggregation, and this is something that we began to discuss as a committee last time, And this is a special opportunity boroughs have to offer residents renewable electricity for lower rates. And there's a working group within Pennsylvania working on this. And we've invited Dennis Rowan, and he's with us on Zoom. So he could talk a little bit about this opportunity and answer questions that we might have. There's also in the packet a MOU, a proposed MOU that the committee could consider recommending to the council. And this is something that, if you remember, the EAC has recommended to us to release a memo, and so it's something that our committee's been considering. And I think the next step is to hear from Dennis, and then see if it's something we would be comfortable recommending to the council. Okay, so Dennis, thank you so much for joining us. Can you hear us?
Yep. Can you hear me okay?
Let's see if we can turn up the volume a little bit.
Okay,
Let's see here.
see if I can do anything on my end. Closer to the mic.
We can hear you, but we have a system that's not normally working, this OWL camera, so.
Okay. If we can't get it, I could call in on the phone number.
No, that it's on our end. It's on your end, Dennis. Thank you, though. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, without the owl, I mean, I can bring the computer closer, but I mean, that's unfortunate as loud as it gets. So
Okay.
you guys might have to gather around a little bit.
Okay.
And here, actually, we'll turn off the AC for a minute.
Yeah, we're just gonna.
We'll turn it back on once Dennis is
Okay.
is done.
So, Dennis, thank you so much for coming. And if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself to our committee. This is Bob Weisford and Cindy Rickards, if you can see over here.
Hello.
And you could just tell us a little bit about the opportunity here.
Sure. So thanks for having me. I think we will be joined by two other members of the CCA for Pennsylvania Working Group. Is that level okay? Can you hear me? I'm trying to speak louder.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm Dennis Rowan. I'm in Lansdowne Borough, about 5 miles from you there in Narberth, very familiar with Narberth, lifelong Pennsylvanian. I've been working with municipalities, mainly in our area. As you're familiar with the Sierra Club Ready for 100 movement over the last few years, been working with a number of the Sierra Club townships and boroughs to move forward their Ready for 100% renewable energy agenda. So in line with that, we've done a number of education and outreach programs. One was on microgrids, one was on solar power. Right now, my company, which is Rowan Energy Integration, we're doing a lot with fleet electrification, trying to decarbonize automotive fleets. So in conjunction with the Sierra Club, the education and outreach, I personally started looking into community choice aggregation when it first became a state rule in California. Today, there are 10 states who have CCA. Our neighbors, New Jersey is a CCA state, New York, Maryland is doing a pilot. And in New York, I was working up there doing some fleet electrification back in 2015 when I met Mike Gordon and Jewel Community Power. Jewel Community Power is one of the partners in CCA for PA. They now administer for about 40 municipalities in New York for about 400,000 residents. And the result has been those communities are meeting their renewable energy goals much faster, also energy efficiency goals. So as I said, I've been following CCA for 10 years. And I saw what happened in New York. They did the pilot, and now it's been 7 years later. They've reduced so much emissions, reduced costs, and gotten a lot of local renewable energy. So started investigating this for Pennsylvania, reached back out to Jewel Community Power, Mike Gordon, Baird Brown, environmental law firm, Baird's the lawyer for Philadelphia Energy Authority, reached out to the Pennsylvania solar community. We have Ron Celentano from the Pennsylvania Solar Association and Liz Robinson. And then also on the CCA for PA team, we have Jim Wiley and Bill Saby from Sierra Club. So it's about 9 months now we've been working on this. And we were very pleased with our legal review by Baird Brown. We also have Earth Justice Devin McDougall on our legal team. They discovered in borough statute in Pennsylvania, boroughs have the statutory authority to do community choice aggregation. And hopefully Baird's going to join in and he can give that precise. I'm not a legal person. My role is mainly education and outreach to the boroughs and municipalities. We are going for statewide, not just boroughs, but it is very specific in statute that boroughs indeed do have this authority. And again, I'll let Baird, go over with that. So about a month ago, we did a webinar on CCA. I think a couple of you have seen that webinar. I know Miriam has and Rob, I'm not sure who else, outlining what we're looking to do. And basically at this point is to explore with borough partners, is CCA a fit for them, right? Do they have, are they a ready for 100 community? What is their size? What is the makeup of their borough? And are they inclined to move progressively? So at this point, after the CCA for PA webinar, we had about 5 boroughs. Narberth, you guys have been the leaders in following up. And, thank you again for letting us present at this stage to go into it a bit deeper. Mike Gordon from Jewel Community Power, as you said, forwarded the memorandum of understanding to you. So Jewel, as I said, they're the administrator in CCA in New York for about 40 towns, about 400,000 people. They are, in my opinion, one of the best in the country at what they do. They also work in other community endeavors, renewable energy development, energy efficiency. And, we're very excited. This process, and again, it is a process. We're not looking for anybody to decide at this point. It's exploration, learn more about the borough on our side. And on the borough side, obviously, the town solicitor would be involved, committees, the council, obviously, and the residents of Narberth, who eventually would be the beneficiaries of CCA. So I know you're all familiar with CCA in a nutshell. Basically, Narberth, if you became a energy authority through CCA, you would become the default supplier for all of the residents and small businesses in Narberth. Anybody could opt out. They could say, no, we want to stay with PECO as the default supplier. Or they could go to Pennsylvania Power Switch, which we can currently do, and select a third-party generator. PECO remains the utility. We're not trying to become a municipal authority. This is just for the generation aspect. So boroughs that want more renewable energy, CCA would give you the choice on becoming the default supplier to be an aggregated purchaser of wholesale renewable energy for the residents. It helps consumer protection because the contract is going through the Borough Energy Authority. And that's a very important thing. Also, it can help lower income people. You can set aside a lower rate for anybody who's at a lower socioeconomic or elderly or on a fixed income. So the CCA can be tailored to, it's going to be Narberth CCA if you choose to go that route, and you can tailor it to your specific requirements. As the administrator, Jewel would be working with the borough, answering all the questions that come up, regarding it, administering it. And I don't want to speak for Mike. I don't know if they're going to pop in or not. I thought hopefully they could join us. So
There is someone actually, Dennis, I think in the waiting room.
Yeah, let's see here.
Okay, yeah, they're joining us now, Dennis.
Great. Yes, so let me introduce them. I see that. So Mike Gordon, who's the CSO and founder of Jewel Community Power. Mike also was one of the founders of the demand response market in the world, I believe. His company, Cpower, was the first demand response company. For those of you not as grid wonky, demand response basically lets the supply side get paid for curtailing your consumption. So Mike, prior to Jewel Community Power, has a long history in energy. I'm very happy that he's joined the CCA for PA working group. And I don't know if Baird has joined as well. As I mentioned before, Baird is an environmental lawyer with long standing. He's the attorney for Philadelphia Energy Authority. And Mike, I was just going over some background on the CCA for PA group, a little bit touching on, what we're looking to do in this exploratory phase. Rob, I don't know if you have questions now or if you wanted Mike to say a few more words. Mike, you're muted.
His last name.
Yeah, Mike. There we go.
I just wanted to say one thing, which is apologies. I struggled to get in.
Oh,
That's it.
no problem. Welcome. Yeah, we're happy you're here. So maybe we could pause for a minute. Thank you, Dennis and Mike, and see if we have any questions from the committee or from our manager. Our manager is here.
Lots of questions.
Sorry, we have a little bit of an awkward setup here today.
Dawson, right here.
Okay, this is our manager, Samantha Bryant.
Morning, Samantha.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, as
And
this committee knows, and as our EAC chair knows, this is a subject, how we can reduce carbon emissions in the borough is very important to me on a personal level. And it was a very alluring aspect of taking the manager job a little over a year ago here in Narborough, was the opportunity to work on these solutions. And it's just inspiring how committed this community is to making those, sort of improvements for the public. That being said, if we can make this work, I think that would be such a win for the community and such a win for the state of Pennsylvania to set up a model that other municipalities might follow. That being said, I wanted to check and see if you had reviewed not only Borough Code, but also Act 138 of 1996, because my understanding is that Act basically precluded municipalities from taking advantage of that language in Borough Code regarding electricity generation.
I think that that question would be for Baird. And I'm assuming he will join us shortly. But Baird is quite convinced that it is that boroughs are authorized to do it. He's quite convinced. But I have, and we've all said that we will need to do complete diligence on it. And at least from my perspective, the borough route is a route. The commission authorization is another route. And and at least job one, from my perspective, is to write a plan, which is how will it proceed? And we would really do that kind of for you, but also with you. So we do have a sense of how we'd proceed and what it is we'd like to accomplish together. But we know it isn't, we know that as we articulate that, you're going to have questions and concerns about it. And so we really want to, it's a collaborative effort, but we really do want to write a plan, so that whether the route is the route of your authorization, or alternatively, we ask the commission for approval to proceed because it is in the public interest. I'm agnostic to the two routes, actually.
And just to clarify, the commission is the Public Utility Commission?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. No.
And then I guess, and I might be getting ahead of myself with some of these questions, but as the person who would actually be responsible for implementation of policy for council, I was curious to know, so it sounds like the way this would work is the borough would pay for the renewable energy, and then we would get paid by property owners for it, or would property owners pay the utility directly?
Yeah, the way we're looking to set it up is that it would look precisely the same to residents as it looks now. It's almost as if they're opting for a competitive market supplier. So we're thinking that it would be a tri-party agreement between the contract would be, at least this is the way we've done it in New York and are intending to do it in Illinois. The municipality, Jewel as administrator, and the load serving entity would sign a tri-party agreement. The load serving entity, the load serving entity would be the default supplier of electricity for community residents. They would get the bill just as they normally get the bill from the utility, and then residents would directly pay the utility, and then the utility would pay the load serving entity for their power. So it really just looks precisely the way you never take ownership of the power.
So in that setup, then it sounds like beyond just actually making it happen, the borough wouldn't be involved in like the day-to-day kind of thing of it. Like if someone wanted to change their supplier or had questions or opt out or that would all be done through PICO as people do it right now already.
I think that we would prefer it be done so at least the way we're looking at it, and of course they'd still have PICO and they'd still have the load serving entity ultimately to go to, but we'd really prefer it be a local organization, and our intent is that it is Dennis's organization that would actually answer questions and engage folks and really animate residents towards some pretty cool decisions prospectively.
And then in terms of PICO, again, I might be getting a little ahead of myself here, but have you all had any opportunity to have like this conversation you're having with us? Have you had any opportunity yet to have any conversations like that yet with PICO or any other entities similar to them?
Preliminarily only. Yeah. Basically, we want to be representing you before we're actually, we think we have more standing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But we have had preliminary discussions with the utilities. Sure, it's. But preliminary. I emphasize preliminary.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. All right, well, that's all my questions for this morning. Like I said, I'm very excited about the opportunity if we can make it work. Mm-hmm. So I look forward to learning more about how some of the actual nuts and bolts of it would actually work. Mm-hmm. And if it's whatever it's worth, my recommendation is if the logistics of it can actually work, I think it could be a great thing for our goals for the climate action plan.
Great. So maybe what we could do, Samantha, if you like this idea, maybe we could arrange for like a follow-up phone call.
Yeah, especially if I could speak with your legal representation about how Act 138 plays in with this. That's my biggest concern. Mm-hmm. And as long as we can get that addressed, I would feel really good about having council take this up.
Okay.
Yep. And by the way, I do want to, even as we pursue the borough approach, simply we are authorized to do this, period, under current statute. I do want to collaborate with the Public Utilities Commission. I do want to write a plan and articulate precisely how it will work and how we'll move from the current setup to renewables that ultimately are developed for the borough. And how we're going to do that and the resources that we're going to take advantage of. I really want them to. I really want to put it together so that it makes clear step-by-step sense to you and as well to the commission.
Mhm.
Yeah, and Mike,
Really good.
Samantha, Mike, before you came on, I think, or you may have been on, I was saying that is our approach, to go to all of Pennsylvania. It just so happens that Baird Brown had found in statute, the borough pathway. But as Mike just said, our intent is, to go statewide. We did reach out. We had a meeting with the PUC. And in that meeting, they said, well, any township who has a clear and compelling reason for doing CCA, where the pathway is open. So that's coming from the PUC already. So as Mike said, our intent is this makes sense for all of Pennsylvania. And compelling case, we have an economic case, we have an energy case, and we have an emissions case. It's very compelling economically because of runaway inflation, the borough being able to control costs through CCA, energy, the local authority to choose your energy, and the emissions to cut down emissions and local pollution and climate change. So I'm very confident that, the compelling case is there. I think you're all on board with that. So that's the intent. The other thing, mechanically, PECO, as Mike said, PECO would remain the distribution entity, or it's called the EDC, the Electricity Distribution Company. The load serving entity, that's the line item that says generation. So with CCA, you would be able to pick, your generator, the authority. And as Mike said, I would be answering a lot of the questions. My organization, Jewel Community Power, would be the administrator. And Mike, I don't know at this point if you want to talk about the economics, how it's played out, what cost there is.
So Dennis, we're almost out of time actually, because we have to move on
Sure.
to our next item on the agenda.
Okay.
But I wonder if I think there's broad support, for exploring this opportunity on the committee here. Am I correct, Bob and Cindy? Okay. There are three of us on the committee and we're supporting it. So
Right.
I think the next step is if we could arrange for Baird to connect with Samantha or our solicitor, just to clarify some of those legal points. Once we have our manager and solicitor, comfortable, then I think the committee would be in a position to
Have council approve the MOU.
recommend the MOU to council.
Excellent.
Completely excited. I don't want to underestimate the amount of work and time it'll take. I don't think it'll take a lot of work on your part. We're going to seek to design it that way, but I really don't, it's not without its challenges. We went through it in Westchester County in New York when there was no CCA in New York. And we're going to do it in Pennsylvania together, and really excited to work with you guys to make it happen.
Great, thank you. You can see there's a strong commitment to addressing the challenge of climate change in Narberth, and we're really excited about the opportunity. So we will follow up.
Excellent. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both.
Thanks, everybody. Happy Labor Day.
Thank you.
See you.
Okay, so I know Bob needs to leave at 9, so we have about 25 minutes for item 6. I think it's
I
probably.
just say one thing. I'm just really glad, Samantha, that you're drilling down into the administrative details of how that's going to function for.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah,
Absolutely.
no, it's great.
Also,
So,
I wasn't quite clear about the relationship between Jewel Community Power, that guy Mike Gordon, which the Jewel Community Power, he's on their team, but what was Dennis's role as, is he like just like a community activist, or is he like, what's his?
he's going to do the education. He wants to do this education piece, but he has his own energy transition consultancy.
But he was saying that they would be the local, he was proposing that they be the local administrator handling customer service.
Yeah, we should clarify that.
Because that, and Samantha, just to your concerns, like, I think that's probably major concern of our residents would be that the customer service actually works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's what you're going after.
Yeah. My sense was that Chico was going to handle things as they do now, but yeah, we can clarify that.
Okay.
All right, so let's go to 6.1. We have this PAC has been constituted, right? We made our appointments at our last council meeting, so we have 5 members. And at our meeting today, we want to discuss the first charge that as a committee we could issue to the PAC. We also want to maybe think about the meeting schedule, or maybe we'll do that offline, you know, just trying to think about what would work for everybody.
Can we just discuss the meeting schedule for a second?
Yeah.
Could the first meeting, like the inaugural meeting of the PAC, include like be sort of a joint meeting of the PHS and the PAC?
Oh, that's an idea.
I would propose that you chair that meeting as the sort of as the chair of this.
Oh, that's an idea.
Of this group. It's how we manage the transition from. It's how the Building and Zoning Committee managed the inaugural meeting of the form-based code or ordinance. So we held a joint meeting. There was consensus about like why we were initiating this new project. There was a sense that the council members were able to speak to it. The members of the board were able to speak to it. You know, why this task? Why now? Why are we gathering now? So that there's a kind of a meeting of the minds.
Yeah. Okay.
Around what that's about. And then from there, then they could elect. Then they could. You know, then you could actually lay out for them, like, you're going to organize yourselves at the next meeting, you'll appoint a chair, you know, you could give them some sense of their directive.
Yeah. Okay, so that would be the first Friday in October?
I would hate to wait a month to do that. I mean, I'm hoping that we could maybe plan their meeting and then we join them rather than, I mean, this is kind of time sensitive. I don't think we
Okay, so we could have a kind of joint meeting, but it doesn't have to wait.
I would call it, it would be a joint, it would be a public meeting, it would be a joint meeting of the council committee and the PAC.
Or even if we have to advertise that, you and I could be members of the public and Rob could chair it. I would suggest, because we're going to lose time having to advertise a public meeting. Isn't that right, Samantha?
Yeah, all the PAC's meetings are going to be publicly advertised.
Anyway.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's right.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah.
And that requires like a 2-week lead time.
Well, no, that's the preferred way to do it, because honestly, it's the cheaper way to do it, because the mainline time's way cheaper to advertise in. If you want to do it sooner, if you want a shorter time frame on that, like a few days to a week, like notice, we could do that. It's just the ad will be a little more expensive. But sounds like there's a legitimate reason in this case to do that. So.
Okay. All right, let's try to do that. Maybe we could figure out a time, you
I
know.
think you started doing that. Did you Samantha gathering times?
Well, I had, and then I kind of backed off on that,
Okay.
and I didn't go beyond this meeting here today. It actually might be best, thinking more on it, it might be best if someone from the committee maybe was in charge of organizing that, and then just let me know the date, and then I'll just make sure it gets advertised.
Okay, so we can do that.
And then I would add to that we would invite, you know, any officers that wanted to
Yes.
join. It's just for the inaugural meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the officers would be very welcome at any of the meetings, but especially at the first meeting, I think it would be good. Yeah.
I guess if we can just get the emails, maybe Misty can send us a list of TAC members and emails. I'm happy to do it.
Okay.
So if you want, so I did, I think I've CC'd you all on that initial email I sent out to the PAC.
That has everybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can talk about that offline, Rob. I can volunteer to schedule that.
Great, thank you, Cindy. Okay.
And then I'll shoot it to you, Mike, when we get the date, so you can invite any officer who wishes to attend.
That's fine. Yeah, that'll work.
Okay, so what we wanted to do was discuss what would be the first kind of tasks that, we would ask the committee to take up. And so we had some ideas. Let me bring this up. Okay, so what we thought we could do, and this is the kind of thing that as a committee, we just have never had the time to kind of dive into some of this and learn more. So we thought if we could learn more about, the traffic issues, the call to service data, we could just kind of gauge, okay, what are the needs of the community as the police department is seeing it. We could look at the comprehensive plan. Are there any, try to map how the police department in many different roles supports the goals of the comprehensive plan. And if there's any potential there, for kind of future policy direction. For example, in the comprehensive plan, we have quite a bit on aging in place. So that's an area that council's been talking about. Is there anything that we could do kind of in the future? Policy is the mayor's domain, but is there anything that council could recommend or the PAC could recommend in terms of supporting, say, aging in place? So these kinds of things, trying to match the comprehensive plan to the police department kind of future vision. That's the kind of thing I think council would love to do, but we just have not had the time to do that. And if we could ask this new committee to look at it, that would be a huge help. The other thing we have is determine what tools and resources and possibly even personnel are needed to provide the department with full support. So, so we have those are kind of three items, a kind of data collection, a look at the comprehensive plan, and then identifying are there additional tools and resources that the department needs. So that's what we were thinking of starting with. So, Cindy.
I obviously have lots of thoughts and excitement about this, but one is, I think, a comment to contextualize the charge. So we would get the UCR reports every month, so we would get that arrest data, and that tells one snapshot, right? So we don't have an idea of what are the calls to service. We also don't have we don't have any information on what are the other social problems that you all interface or deal with that no one ever knows about because there's not a formal arrest. Maybe it's not even going to be picked up in a call to service data. I had some questions about like the vandalism in the park that didn't make a crime statistic and yet was a significant, probably symptom of a larger problem that we may have in our community, but doesn't make UCR crime data. And we're not going to know that as a council and a community without speaking to you all. So that first evaluation of call to service data, I think, goes beyond just like what are the calls, what types of things are you getting called on, what percentage of that actually required law enforcement versus, as you know, in policing, the myriad of issues that really don't fall under law enforcement title are we seeing in the community. And I think that's why it's so important to supplement that data with kind of the experience that you all are seeing. And whether it's like, hey, you're observing that bush is causing an eye line problem in this road, to supplement an engineering evaluation. That's what I really hope the PAC can help us look at, a breadth of public health and safety tools and how we're addressing them. And I would love your feedback on all that kind of, just to contextualize sometimes what you're being asked to do that goes beyond a law enforcement role, which is a national problem, by the way. It's not an Narberth problem, as you guys know.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to I don't want to rush forward by that too fast. Okay, and then like the second item specifically has to do with identifying public health and safety tools. And I suspect, I hunch that in your training and in your job, you're already doing things that support aging in place, that support, that support safe pedestrian community, that support a thriving downtown. And we did, when we looked at, all of the elements that are needed to have a thriving business community, we realized like Narberth already checks most of those boxes because we have good law enforcement, because we have planting boxes and kind of a nice sidewalks, and we pick up the trash. These are things that like some communities would die for, to have good lighting, these kinds of things. So I think there's kind of this educational component for our community that you guys can contribute to and say like, this is sort of how we're supporting aging in place. This is how we're supporting safe pedestrian safety. And then maybe there's aspects that the community can share with you about how to like sort of turn up the volume on pedestrian safety. Like there's things we know about, say, street trees that you might also know that actually has an impact on the environmental and like the environment, and somehow, I don't know if it's subliminal or it's measurable, like it improves pedestrian safety. So for some reason, or it reduces, there's like statistics that there's less crime on streets that are well lit, but also have nice trees. I don't know why, but maybe you guys know.
Michelle Kondo knows.
She knows.
So anyway, so I think there's sort of like, I think part of the objective here is some mutual, like you guys sharing with us, like what you know that we don't know, or we don't, like, I think that's like sort of the disconnect. And then at the same time, that you can hear from the community sort of like what we're after.
Yeah.
And if I can I piggyback on Bob real quick? I'm sorry. And I'll let Andrew chime in here too. So months ago, probably this time last year, I had sent out to Chief Gallagher, Andrea, and Bob and Rob to say, hey, maybe we should go up to Bucks County, because they started with that co-responder and some calls where Bucks has a behavioral health counselor that will come on certain calls with law enforcement. And, law enforcement does what they can under their purview, and then we'll kind of do the warm handoff to Bucks. And Andrea actually suggested, hey, maybe now's the time, the newly seated PAC, some interested counsel, and some officers, we can kind of go up to Bucks County and just learn, how do you do this? And, is this something that would be helpful here? Well, we can't even answer that question right now, because those are the calls that likely, maybe they come through calls to service, but probably are lost in the UCR data. I would really like to understand, are you being asked sometimes to be social workers and behavioral health counselors that fall outside of the realm of law enforcement?
Well, this really points to the third item, which was you were asking just like the PAC to specifically investigate, which is sort of like a gap analysis of like what sort of like are we missing now? Like what additional tools would be needed to support the police, but also to provide Narberth with the best 21st century policing.
Yes. And what was so exciting is I see for the first time the e-bike is back on the table. I know we probably won't have time to do this now, but I would actually want to learn more about that.
Yeah.
There was a Narberth Cycling Club member who is also in law enforcement that for years had said, actually, particularly with the bridge closed, you could probably get there faster via a bike. So
we'll get to that.
Yeah. I'd love to understand why now did you all think about we should think about this? Like, that's the stuff that's exciting to hear how you're thinking.
Yeah. Well, I think what Bob and Cindy are pointing to is there's an opportunity, and it's obvious to us with both of you coming to the meeting today, and Dan was able to come to the previous meeting, just to have this kind of open communication where we can look at our comprehensive plan and kind of sync that more intentionally with, the work you're already doing. I think there's an opportunity for real productive dialogue. So I want to see if the mayor wanted to speak. I know she's on Zoom.
Yeah, I don't know if she was able to hear me or if she wants to speak to her suggestion of.
Okay, or she may jump in later.
Mayor, do you have any, I don't know if you're actively, Mayor, do you have any comments at this time?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I have a very limited internet access. Okay. So, I mean, the suggestion with the program up in Ben Salem, I had a lot of questions about. The Ben Salem program works for a community of about 65,000 people. So it's substantially larger than ours. And I had, we can look at it. I don't know that it's applicable to Narberth in that we are only 4,300 residents. And, it would be of limited value. But it doesn't hurt to understand it. So that was, my thoughts on the social worker up in Ben Salem. Other than that, I mean, it's fine to, I don't really have any specific thoughts as this seems to be a general concept at this point. I would like to attend the meetings of the PAC to lend, answer any questions that they have and listen to what they're doing.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. We will set up the meetings. And so
at this point,
you'll
the
see
charge
the
is
schedule.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay. So, okay, so I think, we could, what we could do is we could take this to the PAC once we have the meeting scheduled. We'll figure that out. We'll figure out the day and time. I know we want to ask the officers for a little bit of an update, but we have these other items as well. So should we go to we don't have a lot of time. We have maybe 8 minutes. Should we go to the vehicles next?
Yeah, I think we can do that. Well, it depends on how many questions you have, but I think that's pretty urgent. I think maybe we can knock that out in a few minutes here.
Okay.
So actually, Officer Belty, if you don't mind, maybe coming up to the other side of the camera here with me.
Yeah.
I'll bring my chair around here.
You coming over here? I'll just switch places.
No. Yeah, we got two chairs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry for standing. Somebody can sit over here with me if they really want. I did put the.
No, my thanks to Officer Belty. You can see the binder here that he put together, which we scanned and put in your packet. I think he makes a really good job laying out the case why, unfortunately, our police fleet is beyond its useful life and presents an active danger to our officers and the public, given the condition of the cars between carbon monoxide leaks, lack of air conditioning, suspension issues. So we have a proposal which I was really thrilled to work with Officer Belty and Sergeant Bernaccio on to modernize the police fleet. And I think they really took to heart the suggestions this committee previously had for Chief Gallagher back in the winter about this. So you'll see for the parking controller, we're proposing that vehicle is shot. It's a dead car. It's been sitting dead in the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
Switching to an EV, a complete 100% electric vehicle, not a plug-in. In addition, they found a vehicle that does not have, that's not all-wheel drive, because I know the committee had expressed some skepticism about that when that idea was presented, which reduces the cost and availability of the vehicle considerably. So we have a Nissan Leaf proposed to the parking controller. For the existing police fleet, today is the deadline if we want to be able to get the Ford F-150 Lightning police package, which again is a complete EV vehicle. Yeah. And so we replace one of the cars with that. We are proposing that we would replace two of the vehicles with gas-powered vehicles for the moment.
Mm-hmm. Temporarily.
Yes, very temporarily, just because of the lack of availability of EVs and the fact that just our cars are in such bad condition. it's a shame we lost, with the chief, transition, although we lost some months on this project. But what we're proposing is we would get 2 gas-powered vehicles. We would immediately sell them, as soon as an EV became available. I have a commitment from the department as part of this proposal that, in the next couple of years here, those would be traded out for EVs. I kind of laid out a time frame of, next year we would get the Lightning, the year after we get another EV vehicle, and the year after that we get the third to make our patrol vehicles completely EV at that point. And then in addition, as Councilman Rickards mentioned, there's also, based on a suggestion from the EAC, and talking with the officers and looking at our comprehensive plan, there's a proposal in here for an electric bike. And as someone who owns an electric bike and has had a chance to show it off to Sergeant Vernaccio at public events a couple of times, I think it's something that could be, more useful for the officers than just a regular, pedal bike might be in a lot of situations. And again, our comprehensive plan calls for more bike patrols. And I'm grateful the officers have committed to, as part of the police reports, once we're able to start producing those again, that we would add data to the police reports about our bike patrol frequency. So that's our proposal to modernize and move the Narberth police fleet to a fully EV. And of course, again, with all the vehicles, we would maintain, again, flexibility in the future when we need to replace these vehicles. If we needed to, sell them down the road, we would certainly have the flexibility to do that.
All right. So did you see they just announced Chevy's coming out with the new EV police charger?
So yeah,
that was actually mentioned in Matt's report.
No, it's a beautiful car.
Right, the Blazer.
That's 2024 release. So what's the resale? So let's say we buy Narberth vehicles now. I mean, how quickly, what's the resale value on trading them in on, let's say 2024, where we can get the Blazer?
I mean, it's from what I can tell in this market, the EVs really hold their values.
No, I'm sorry. We purchased, let's say, a gas police car, and in a year and a half, we want to sell it to someone for the EV car.
So there's obviously going to be a depreciation. You can put the vehicles up on municipal, and essentially what will happen is other departments are more than happy to go and specifically like down south and out west too. We're more than happy to go and try to purchase a which is essentially, by the way, like an almost new vehicle at that point. So so you can recoup a decent amount of your expenditures that are put into it. But the reality is, obviously, just like you buying a brand new car off the lot.
But we actually can sell it.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is basically this is almost an end around way of we legally can't lease a vehicle in the way that like us as a general public can lease a vehicle. So basically, we would just be paying almost equivalent to if you leased a vehicle and then just didn't buy it at the end of the lease term, kind of thing. That's what that depreciation would basically be.
And we need 2 new vehicles if we get the EV bike.
Yeah. So the things with the bikes are also. I also actually have an electric bicycle at home too, which I love. They're awesome. The problem is that with the manpower that we have and it's a great supplemental patrol item. The reality is we can't do our primary patrol duties on a bicycle. We just, if you, and I can show you, if you pop the trunk
computer.
so that's absolutely part of it. But if you pop the trunk on any one of our vehicles, the amount of stuff, the equipment that we carry, that actually does get used, is just immense. You can't put it on a bicycle, So that's one of the big problems. Another thing is response times. Even still on a bicycle, yes, the point made about crossing over the somewhat defunct bridge to the south side is absolutely true that you'd be able to do that on an electric bicycle. But however, if I'm at let's say Montgomery Avenue and a call comes out of Rockland, going from there on bicycle, electric or not, is going to take me substantially longer than if I'm in a vehicle, especially if time is of the essence, right? So, cardiac arrest, stuff like that. And then going back to a cardiac arrest, guess what? I can't carry the AAD on the bicycle because the box is this
Yes.
big, right? You have to have that in the vehicle. So that's why bicycles are great for supplemental
That's
control.
what I meant. Like
Yeah, so if you have one person in a vehicle
Yes.
and then another guy on a bicycle, works perfect.
That's exactly what I was asking.
Right,
Could the
that's
EV
best.
truly be a supplemental?
It's definitely a great supplemental
Right,
thing.
right.
Yeah, advice. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's what I meant.
Sure.
It basically comes down to what he said, it's man.
Absolutely.
So if we have two
Yeah,
people
sure.
working, then you can.
That's a rare.
Absolutely. Like, is there, is, again, this is policy, you have two folks on, one's in the car, one's on,
Yeah.
like,
Right.
Right.
that's,
Yeah, in those situations, it's definitely,
Yeah.
possible. Now, the other thing too is, insofar as cars goes, I'm sure like and I did try to cover all this, in the presentation I gave you. If anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to explain. But one of the biggest things is, and this is pretty important to understand, is that this is not the only borough or township that is in the idea of we should be going green, right? Which is a good thing. The bad thing is that means that the backlog for these vehicles is pretty substantial. Plus, you pull into that supply chain issues, yada yada yada.
Mm-hmm.
So the reality is like, so the vehicle that we order today, right? The Ford F-150 Lightning, the fully electric vehicle, which is great. The problem is that we're not going to see that for another year and a half.
Yeah.
Right, there lies the issue, right? So like that Chevy Blazer that you mentioned, the EV one, which is wonderful. The reality is that you're probably not going to see that till 2025,
sure.
right? So and the problem is that the follow-on issue of that is that we have vehicles that are literally falling apart out there now.
That's why you need the two.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
So you literally are ordering the Ford Police F Lightning
Today. If you guys okay, this will order.
Why do we not order two of them today?
Yeah.
Because they're expensive.
They're
But
expensive.
They're expensive.
I mean,
if you're fine with that.
But they're great. I mean,
I'm fine with
and
that.
is it a pickup truck or is it more like on the Bronx? Is it
So
more
it's
like
a pickup truck. I actually have a.
Because have you driven it? Because it's really amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm both a gearhead and
Plus you
an
can-
environmental person.
You can keep so much equipment in the front,
Absolutely.
locked,
Mhm.
and you have the back. I mean,
I'm very
this is-
excited about it.
I was trying to explain that to Chief Gallagher.
Uh-huh.
How incredible that.
I'm really excited.
Can I say
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. When I talked about EV,
Yeah, I'm genuinely excited.
Let Officer Melby and Sergeant Bernacchio, Officer Melby made that point to me about why the F-150 is so great.
Can I ask what we want to do?
question.
I don't know why we're not, I mean, we're saying, if we could lease, we would, that's not an option. I think this holds us accountable. Like, in a year and a half, we have two. You're telling me with confidence, you clearly did your homework. I actually appreciate you didn't come forward with a hybrid, because I think the hybrid then gives you an excuse not to do it.
Mhm.
Like, no, we do it, we lease it, we charge ourselves, we order two, we hold ourselves accountable.
But here's maybe to put that in context, like if,
It's fine by us.
I guess this is my thought about a fully electric vehicle like that, is that, you don't like the wear and tear on a combustion engine is the idle time, right?
Yes.
And you gotta idle because you have so much equipment that you have to run.
Mhm.
So with an electric vehicle, there's no idle time. You've got like 240 volts of power to run all your stuff.
100%.
You're never idling. You're recharging. Does that mean though that they're going to last longer to say justify the investment of say in two of them, because that we're actually going to get, like, instead of 2 years of life, maybe we get 5 or 6 years of life? And so I'm just wondering.
So that's a great question. And now, so there's two answers to that. One, conceivably, yes. However, there hasn't been enough of these vehicles, full electric vehicles, put on the market in municipal use that there's been dedicated studies to be able to tell you that over a length of time. But however, like looking at, like, for instance, Teslas, right? Which is, there are actually some departments that are looking to go to Teslas, but that being said, that what they're at least looking at in the civilian market for Teslas is that yes, the vehicles, because there is such less wear and tear, there's so many less parts that need to be replaced and maintained, that yes, the vehicles absolutely do last longer. The caveat there would be, however, under situations like us where there's going to be a more regular usage than a personally owned Tesla. Those tests aren't there yet. But I would surmise that
Maybe the battery is the limit.
Well, so yeah, that does become the thing at there is a finite time on it. Then you have to either replace the battery or replace the vehicle eventually. But these vehicles, this vehicle here would likely last like I don't want to give you a finite time, but like significantly longer than a gas combustion vehicle would.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I so appreciate this report. It is so thorough, and why the car details don't really, I can't ascertain or assess. Just the thoughtfulness.
You're not a car person.
No, I'm
But the
not.
Leaf
I'm like, I trust you,
The
but
Leaf is a great choice for parking.
it's so
It's a
thoughtfully
great
laid
car.
out.
Yeah, no, I also,
It's a no-brainer.
Can we vote? I mean, can we give the authority to purchase two?
well, I know it has to be done today.
Yeah, you can, because the borough wouldn't actually have to pay for it until next year. I feel
Yeah.
pretty
Mhm.
comfortable that I think borough council would support in the 2023 budget.
Yeah.
Can we-
Yeah,
Do we
I mean,
need to vote
if
or?
there'll be other options coming online, but if you're
The
comfortable.
only thing we're saying is like,
perfect, honestly.
I love the Ford and like I want one myself.
Yeah.
I was in the queue for one, but I couldn't afford it when they said it was my turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the, I just wonder if the optics, like if the residents would feel like it's too big, it's too big. Like I personally think it's the right vehicle for the police force. 'Cause my objection to the large vehicles in the past was just they were gas guzzlers, not that they had size.
Oh,
Not that
right.
they had size and
but
capacity. I always believed the police needed, and were more comfortable in a bigger vehicle. So, like, I think this is sort of the best of both worlds. But
I guess what I would probably tell the residents,
residents might be upset about the
They
size.
find-
well, I would probably tell them that, I mean, it was this, or wait, 3 years for the Chevy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
That'll be our next. That'll be the next.
We could always resell, if we wanted to have just one instead of two, we could always resell, right? We could sell
Yeah,
that.
you can do whatever you want. I mean, you guys own them.
But I
You guys will
also
own
think
them.
with size, you're saying, okay, you were ordering two bigger vehicles, but we're also adding this e-bike where you're gonna see an officer, a
Yeah.
supplemental officer out with a significantly smaller, space.
So
I won't worry about the size of the vehicles. They're EV.
Exactly.
Well, right.
Exactly.
Well, and that's
That's kind of what I was saying in the
that's
rest.
why, yeah.
the other thing you can do, which I would almost encourage, and to that point, would be to advertise on the vehicle that it is an electric vehicle.
Yeah.
So a lot of departments will do that. For instance, like I've seen pictures like where it's like got a green stripe and it says hybrid energy or something like that. Just like a small thing, but it at least is on there so that you can advertise that it is that also
Zero emissions.
Right, exactly. Something like that kind of cues off that it's not just a gas vehicle. So
I like that.
That's a
Agreed.
good idea. Yeah.
All right, so to make sure we understand what's gonna happen, to make sure I don't get flayed, here, is we're gonna go ahead and order the Nissan Leaf. That was part of the budget for this year already. We're gonna go ahead and put the order in for 2 of the F-150 Lightnings. We're gonna work with the AAC on getting the e-bike. And then, at the council meeting on the 15th, I'm gonna ask council for a budget adjustment because we thankfully have some extra revenue, more revenue this year than I thought. So that we can make the vehicle replacements for the temporary, emphasize until we get the F-150s, the 2 gas powered vehicles proposed.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep.
Yes, that sounds very good. I do want to thank Matt Felton. This is such a helpful report, and I just appreciate how the sergeant and the officers have really heard the council on this, that we really want to transition the borough to clean energy. It's just such a priority of the council and the manager, and I so appreciate the department.
absolutely,
The willingness, the
Yeah, you're
research,
definitely, absolutely.
And sorry, one last note, but it's something we've already kind of talked about, I think agreed on previously. The proposal also calls for an EV charger dedicated for the use of the F-150 Lightnings. But at our meeting last month, we talked about, I was already looking at putting a second charger out in the, parking lot anyway for borough usage. So I think we're all on board with that.
Good.
I was gonna ask if we could get a fast charge maybe for the road vehicles in case that ever was an issue.
Yeah, no, I'm working with Flo on that. I don't think we're too far off on all that.
Yeah.
Rob, I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I know you have to go. So we will,
Sure, yeah.
yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So,
You're so welcome.
Can I ask one thing before we
Yeah.
go? Just real quick, can I request that we put on our next agenda a review of the plastic bag ordinance?
yeah, let's do that in October.
That's a good idea.
And, we can come to Shade Tree in October. The last item for us is just the police chief, job description. So that's something that we could work on with the mayor.
Yeah, I think it's something if you work with the mayor offline on, and then actually have something in writing to then bring for the committee to look at.
Okay, so let's plan on that.
Thanks, Rob.
All right, thank you. So we'll finish then.
Huh?
Thank you all.
Fully welcome.
Oh, no,
Thank
no,
you.
it's pretty rare.